Freezing up here in the Northeast.
Yeah, it's not freezing here.
20 degrees outside, and my Tesla is frozen. Like I can't drive it. Like
Oh, you can't go anywhere, right?
can't go anywhere. Yeah, yeah. Is everyone
Yeah.
asking you this week? Like, is your car gonna freeze? Like, are you afraid to go anywhere?
Somebody in the office brought this up because I have the Model 3 as well.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm not really worried about it. We're in
Especially,
California, man.
especially in California, but in Chicago, it's a different story. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, there's definitely some stuff going on there. But I know we chatted about it a little bit. But part of it is that the Uber and Lyft drivers started renting Teslas and other EVs, and they're in the city center. They live in apartments. They don't have chargers at home, so they have to go to the supercharger to be able to charge to use the car for work, right?
Yeah, and we're kind of talking about they're probably downtown and they only have a few blocks to go kind of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. So and the car may be low on charge too when they don't really know how to use it. Also, I mean, they don't really understand. But if it's like negative 10 degrees out, which it's something like that out there, negative 5, 10 degrees,
Yeah.
the EV has to warm the battery above freezing before it'll start charging. So those guys, if you have a charger at home, it's not a problem. You just like plug it in when you get home from work, and it warms it up. It starts charging in the morning. It's up to 80% or wherever you set it at, right?
Yeah, you don't even. I mean, you're sleeping
You
while
don't even
this is
think
all
about it.
happening.
It takes like a second.
You
but
know, there's no concerns.
but if when you don't have that charger, then it's not a good idea to have an EV, especially if you live in the city, because
I mean, if you're talking about Uber drivers, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not a normal situation.
not a normal situation. But I have a picture here. So the cars were like piling up at the supercharger, right? Like they have all the news. They're showing all these pictures of Teslas with snow on them, and they say they're getting there and they're plugging them in. They're not starting to charge, and they think something's broken, but it's just because the car's so cold. Now you and me know that when you go to a supercharger, it preconditions, right? When you set one that's far enough away, the car will
Yeah.
either warm or cool the battery, so when you get there, it charges super fast.
Even from, I had to do a supercharge from, I was at the office, and the supercharger was probably maybe 2-3 miles, and it did the conditioning, the preconditioning of the battery. So
Yeah. Yeah, and when you got there, it took it like, what'd you say, under 10 minutes to boost your charge up to like 60%?
yeah, it was more, I think the car could have made it back to where I was, but I felt like a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, let me put a little bit of charge in there, get it back to where it should be, where I thought it should be, because I forgot to charge it the night before.
Yeah.
So I think I was down to maybe 30%, but I have probably plenty of battery to get back home, right? It's
Yeah.
only 33 miles back.
Oh, yeah.
So I wanted to get I wanted it at a level that I was comfortable. So, I went to the supercharger, it conditioned the battery, I plugged it in, I walked to Starbucks, which is like, through a parking lot, got a coffee, walked back. I think I got on the phone with you, sat in the car, or unplugged the car and got in, and I was totally fine. So to get another 30% of battery, I'm estimating, less than 10 minutes.
Less than 10
Because it was
minutes.
so
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah, and your battery's warm. You're in California. It preconditioned
Yeah.
a little bit. It's not a problem. And then also, when you're going to a supercharger, if you look on the Tesla map, I'll put up the picture. When you put it in the navigation, I'm showing Chicago right now. So if you look at this picture, like one of them has wait times, one of the superchargers, but then this one like in Waukegan, Illinois, like it's maybe 10, 20 minutes outside the city. It has 17 available superchargers. So would you go to the one that has the wait time, or just like go to the one that has the 17 available and maybe take a couple minutes to get there and precondition
I would
that?
find one that's available because, as you know, the battery's going to charge probably faster on that network because
Yeah.
there's no cars on there, right?
Right.
Um,
And I mean, all the road trips that I've taken, I've never had to wait, because if I always come in with enough battery that if there is a wait there, I just go to the next one, or I check the navigation ahead of time, and Tesla will actually reroute you if there's congestion, it'll just send you another one.
yeah.
So there's ways around it that I feel bad for those Uber drivers. Like they don't have a lot of knowledge, and they don't have a lot of choice because they don't have chargers at home. But basically, if you're a EV driver and you're on a road trip, avoid city centers. I mean, that's what I learned really quick, is that you, instead of charging, in the city, you charge 10, 20 minutes outside the city. There's no wait. No one's there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but what if you live in the city?
If you live in the city, I would still head out. I would make sure I have enough power.
Venture out? Yeah.
Venture out. I mean, take a little drive outside. It's way better to drive than wait, right? Then maybe you get to see something new or stop at a new store or something that's near the supercharger. Why would you sit and wait for 5 hours when you can just drive a few minutes outside the city?
Yeah, no, if there's a wait for 5 hours, I mean, I have to be in a position of the batteries. I'm not going to be able to make it out to wherever you're talking about. That would be the situation, but yeah, I'm not waiting 5 hours.
And again, those people that are waiting 5 hours, if they probably didn't even have a mobile charger like we have, right? You could just find a 120 outlet somewhere and plug in. Maybe in a parking garage or near a store or something. Just find one on the wall, plug in there, go and just leave it there. And that's way better than waiting at a supercharger for your spot, right? If it's
exactly.
Clogged. So there's other options, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Find
a level 2 charger somewhere that's leave it in the parking garage, go shopping for an hour. Do you have power to get home, All right, enough EVs, but yeah, don't be afraid of them. It's not the apocalypse that they're showing, as long as you do a little bit of planning. You can't totally.
Well, you know me. I mean, I'm not. I just.
You just know you're not planning. You're not planning much. And you forgot to charge. It still wasn't even an issue, right?
Yeah. No. I mean, at first I was. I had a EV. We had an EV before that had less mileage on it, right?
Yeah.
But that's changed so much now since the first time I had an EV to the EVs now. The range on them are dramatically different. So when I got the Tesla, I mean, range was definitely not an issue at that point.
No.
It wasn't an issue with the other EV, but it definitely wasn't an issue with this.
Well, you had to sweat it a little bit in the e-Golf, right? You knew you had enough range to get to work and get back, but you may have to turn the climate control down or go a little bit slower, right?
Yeah, and I don't do that. So
and you don't that's why.
We had a charger at work. I would hit that charger occasionally. So.
Yeah, and I know you could have made it home with 30% battery, no problem, but you wanted to go faster, so you had to juice it up.
Well, that car, the e-Golf, right? It was limited to 85 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I still have people get out of my way.
Yeah, exactly. And you're trying to save power. All right. So back to Wi-Fi. So we both been testing the first Wi-Fi 7 AP, the ECW536.
Yep, the 536.
And quickly, I had it on I had it on a 2.5 gigabit switch, and I was maxing it out on the 2.5 gig multi-gig switch, right?
Now, when you say that, when you're maxing it out, you're maxing it out on this testing that you're doing. You're not. This is not general browsing or anything like that.
No. I was trying to max it out using open speed test, right? Most people aren't going to be able to max out that 2.5 gigs is probably a good spot. I think because of switch costs and things like that, I wouldn't have any problem using it on a 2.5 gig switch. But I was able to max it out on the 2.5 gig. I switched up to a 10 gig port, and I got 2.8 gig, 2.88, something like that. So on send or receive, I'm not sure, but So I was seeing almost 3 gig maximum on that, and it is a 4x4 AP. So it's
talking to a 2x2 laptop.
Yeah, talking to a 2x2 laptop, I was seeing almost 3 gig. And I did find an external power supply that you can use with this AP. It's a 12 volt 3 amp that you need to use with the ECW536.
That's right.
So I was able to find one for $10 or whatever on Amazon, and it works perfect. That way you don't need to have a PoE++ switch. If you just want to buy one to test it, you can use that power supply. But I would say you need at least a 2.5 gig switch still to get the maximum out of it.
Yeah, I mean the 536 has 10 gigabit ports. I'm running a 10 gig switch at my place, but I'm not doing the testing that you're doing.
Yeah.
But I will say this. So I'm doing a lot of testing on the 536 with our team.
Yeah.
And just thinking about it, I was running on a 5 gigahertz SSID. And I was seeing, like, sitting in the same spot. I wasn't checking. I was just checking connectivity, and I was running speed tests and stuff. And I was seeing, I think, around, I'm kind of guesstimating a little bit, 200 to 300 megabit per second sitting in my house, wherever. I think I was in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. And then I switched over to, I was testing the different frequencies, so I jumped over to 6 gigahertz. So I'm just running the iPhone 14 Pro.
Yeah.
And just going from 5 gigahertz over to 6 gigahertz, I was seeing more around 400 to 500 megabits. So just a huge jump when you go from 5 gigahertz to 6 gigahertz, which I think a lot of people are talking about. But just to give you a point of reference of, I wasn't trying to do anything fancy. I'm just saying that the connection is just so much faster.
And what's your internet? You're capped at 500 meg, right?
No, I'm a gig.
Oh, you are a gig. Okay. So,
yeah,
and how far away were you from the AP, let's say?
I was on a different level of the house, and I was probably 50 feet away, probably.
Yeah, so you're going through floors 50 feet away, but you saw like 200 meg more by switching to 6 gigahertz. Yeah,
just simply going over. And it might have been maybe about 30 feet more, I think about it, but still on a different level. AP, like my phone is like this, and the AP is flat on a different floor, right? So
you have like
the antenna pattern's going up like this, right? So
yeah.
So yeah, not the best case for wasn't clear line of sight or anything like that. There's some obstruction, but not I wouldn't say major. I wouldn't say a full floor, but still. Just a dramatic change. So, I guess what I'm saying is that, with the 536, it's offering the 3 bands.
Yeah.
It's 2.4, 5, and 6. You're going to see with the new iPhone and the new phones that are out there, they're already operating on 6 gigahertz, and that's a big advantage.
Yeah, exactly. So even though you may not have a Wi-Fi 7 device like I have here, the Intel BE200 in my laptop, if you have a new iPhone, they support 6E, Wi-Fi 6E, 6 gigahertz, and you're going to instantly see the advantage of having, a Wi-Fi 7 AP like the ECW536 because there's no interference on that band, right? You got wider channels, no interference. Your neighbors aren't all using it, so you'll get like a much faster, cleaner Wi-Fi experience with the new iPhones.
For sure, yeah, definitely. And it's more secure too, right? 6 gigahertz is more secure.
Yeah, why? Because it uses WPA3. WPA3 requires.
Yeah, you have to. You don't have an option to not use it.
Right. So security, speed, reliability, all these things, and you're future proofing with Wi-Fi 7. So yeah, if the budget is there, I would definitely upgrade now. We've been testing; it's working great.
Yeah. So far, so good.
Anything new in the cloud for the 536?
A lot of features coming soon. I know the ability to freeze firmware will be coming this month.
Oh, okay.
Under the MSP portal. So under the MSP portal, you'll have the option to be able to freeze firmware or freeze the ability for the firmware to be updated. It will give you a window of time. It will give you more time to test other firmwares and things like that.
Yeah, so if you have like thousands of switches out there, they're not going to push a firmware update that's going to possibly break something, right?
Right, exactly. It'll give you the opportunity to freeze the firmware on the one that is currently on.
Yep.
And then choose a later time to maybe do updates.
So then you can test.
And we have time zone or trial zone in there, so you can actually test like a few switches before you apply a firmware to like other switches. So you do have that ability as well. So
cool.
That's coming up soon. There's a lot of partner things that are coming up, a lot of great changes that I kind of talked to you about. But yeah, we have a lot of cool things coming out for our partners and our customers. So stay tuned for that.
All right, sounds good. All right, we'll be back next week. Remember to like and subscribe and post questions in the comments about Wi-Fi 7 because it's